If you had $5 million in cash, how would you launder it into your bank account? Start a religion. Declare it as donations. I use HSBC, so I would just tell them it's drug money. But you'd have to pay a $50,000 fine with no criminal charges. How could you possibly manage? Become an artist. Sell your pieces in a flea market. Pay yourself triple what the painting is worth. $50,000 for a stick figure painting of a D? Why not? I wouldn't. I would buy a fireproof safe and simply keep it in my basement. You spend it here and there and draw no attention to yourself. Yup. Or a fireproof mattress. Haha. Best way to launder a huge amount of money is to open up a nightclub. It is mostly a cash business and it wouldn't raise any eyebrows if you were making $30K Friday and Saturday night only for it to die off a year or so later. That's why some clubs are found to be part of a criminal organization. Truffle farm. Buy truffles from nearby farms. Private seekers with cash. Sell to restaurants and accept payment into your account. They can't prove you did or didn't find those truffles. You'll just be a particularly gifted truffle farmer. I've saturated my mind with that word and now it looks weird. Truffle, truffle, truffle. Buy a cash business like a nail salon, paying the majority of the true purchase price in cash to the seller with a token amount on paper. Sales increase steadily over a year. You sock away all the clean money thrown off by the salon. Maybe 4-5k mo. After that year, put the 50-60k as a down payment for a really itty investment home or flip. Pay for all renovations in cash. Sell house for a clean profit. Rinse and repeat. Once you get tired of that, buy yourself a small commercial building. A little neighborhood shopping center with vacancy problems. Hire patsies to open more cash businesses. A dry cleaner. A tanning salon. A boutique clothing store. Each of these operations now serve two purposes. Cleaning a little cash each month which pays for your patsies and a little taste for you. But more importantly, they pay their above market rent on time each month. Now you've operated this for a year and have built some excellent financials on the shopping center. So you sell it as a leased investment on the commercial real estate market. What you purchased for $1 million when it was throwing off no rental income you now sell for $5 million as investors paying you for value of future cash flows. Now 1031 tax defer your profits into a like-kind investment. Which means your $4 million profit is now down payment on a $15 million office building throwing off $750k a year in crystal clean income. The real trick is don't take that $750k a year though. Taxable as income. Pay your mortgage down early. And after 5 years you refi and take your $5 million out as capital gains to minimize tax exposure. Rinse. Repeat as needed. Magic the Gathering cards. I'll just put it in the banana stand. You know that shop in your town where you can't figure out how the hell they stay in business? That's how everyone does it. Buy Bitcoin through face-to-face transactions. Then slowly sell off the Bitcoin and claim I mined it. Deposit cash in my bank account and report capital gains on next year's taxes. I just take it to the bank. If they ask, just say I don't know. Let the FBI launch an investigation. I really have no idea why I have $5 million. I'd like to find out though so I can do it again. I will assume you have some sort of verifiable income with the IRS. Step 1. Buy home. Step 2. Wait a little while and then claim you found $5 million in cash within the walls of the house. Step 3. Profit? I'd pretend I was a really popular plus-size male stripper and explain to the IRS I had to keep my client list confidential because I'm shaking Gimbo Jr. in the faces of assorted heads of states' wives and I would have whipped cream receipts from all over the world flown in. Edit. Extra word. Nice try Peter, Michael and Samir. I would start a political action committee. Wouldn't even hit the radar. I actually work in AML as a forensic accountant. Walter White's plan was pretty foolproof. I would put it in the washing machine, then slowly make deposits over the course of my life. It would not draw any attention because the bills would smell so fresh at the bank. Trust me, any methods you think are original The banks are already 2 steps ahead of you on. They spend billions to prevent or catch you. Source: I'm a banking anti-money laundering investigator. Keep the cash and use it to pay bills in the form of cashier's checks and small cash purchases. Pay you bills, your mortgage and your taxes as usual, but things like groceries, clothing, hobbies use cash. In my country, constructing residential houses is tax-free, and that's what the politicians do with their black money anyway. The houses will be sold at a profit and the money's as white as a white supremacist. Through my drug dealing business. Buy 5 million lotto tickets and pray that one hits. All the common ways to get caught laundering money. Buy someone's winning lotto ticket at a slightly inflated price. Start a Kickstarter and slowly funnel money to my business account. Donated through a website that my son made for me to help cure my cancer, or event, because that always works out. In this hypothetical, you're probably more likely to be caught for money laundering than for whatever, presumably, illegal act got you the $5 million. So the smartest thing to do would be to take tax evasion off the table. Just deposit the money into your bank account. Then file a Fifth Amendment tax return by invoking your right against self-incrimination on your 1040 when it asks for the source of income. But of course the smartest thing to do is not break the law in the first place. See United States v. Brown. 600 F. 2D 248. 252. 10th Sec. 1979. The self-incrimination privilege can be employed to protect the taxpayer from revealing the information as to an illegal source of income, but does not protect him from disclosing the amount of his income. I'd go on Reddit and ask people smarter than me to tell me how. I would sell myself my socks on eBay, using various library computers. Start a consultancy business and create and pay a bunch of fake invoices. I have a few people I could rely on to make it work. I'd buy dirty houses with the clean money I have and flip them using the dirty money to purchase the materials used for renovation. When I sell the house, I'd then deposit the newly clean money into the bank. Could one claim that they are an escort and deposit the cash in sums of, say, $50,000 per week? Would the IRS care if you are a sex worker? And would they report it to law enforcement? Haven't other sex workers reported the income honestly to the IRS without law enforcement consequences? If it's all in 20s, that would be 250,000 bills. Using violet straps would give you 2,500 bundles. At 1 G per bill, this would be 250 kilograms or about 550 pounds. Bills are 2.61x 6.14x 0043, so 250k bills is about 17,227 cubic inches, or 10 cubic feet. Each bill is about 0.0043 inches thick, so altogether they are 1,075 inches thick, or about 90 feet. If you laid them out in a square about 2 feet by 2 feet, 9 bills one way, 4 the other, the stack would be about 7,000 bills tall, or 2.5 feet. The same line of thinking as becoming an artist and buying your own artwork. Start your own porn company and buy your own DVDs. This would work for any business really. Start a business and buy your own product. There will be a little bit of loss, but you will get something in return. For instance, you buy a garage and employ mechanics to restore old cars. If you put in 30-40 grand, you'll probably get at least that back. In some cases you'll probably make money. I personally would rather have a sex with porn stars, although both would be nice. I would open an unsuccessful but fun business and just hang out all day. Fudge the books a little to make it look like we're doing okay. I've had an average of $9 in my account for the last few months, so I would just keep it in cash. I'll let them think I'm just still middle class. Why not just tell the IRS it's from fraud and embezzlement? Won't they just take their cut and leave you alone? Just because you're a criminal doesn't mean you have to be a tax criminal, does it? I just make a large deposit in my bank account, and if anybody questions it, I will say that I found the money in the woods, and if they have a problem with that, they should go in the woods to find their own stack of money. I'd run a simple thrift store, or rather, a series of them. You buy and sell from random customers. It would be easy to manufacture all cash transactions. And the high margins often associated with these deals means it wouldn't be strange for $100 to suddenly turn into $200. Tell no one you have it. No one. Get a fireproof safe with a biometric denial system as well as a key. You could even add a combination to the lock. Store it in the basement or inside your closet, provided you have a large one. Which with all that cash, you should spend carefully, and above all else, tell no one. Edit. Oh, what a simple failure to press space on your phone can do to your inbox. A friend of mine found a bag of cash left behind in a club where he worked. Didn't know what to make of it. Turns out it was Michael Irvin's signing bonus, or a good chunk of it. Some us friends of Mr. Irvin's came by a few hours later, in a very Second Amendment mood, and turned the place upside down. Looking for it, it was helpfully supplied. I've always wondered how I would have gotten that money out of there, if I'd known guys were coming for it, how late I would wait and how I would launder it. Banks crash. I'll just put it under my mattress like crabs. OP steals $5 million and nonchalantly asks Reddit how to launder it. Just claim you play pro soccer in Europe. If you live in the US, no one in the US watches soccer anyway. Why do you have to launder it? I'm not American, so I don't know your laws. But why can't you just put it straight in your bank account? I probably wouldn't. I'd change my name, grow a mustache and leave the country. Then I'd change my name again and shave the mustache. Not super into mustaches. As a straight white male lawyer who wears a suit, I would do the following. 1. Deposit it in a bank. There is no 2. But seriously, if I really had to launder it, offshore, baby, are very hard. Then you just create a shell corporation, pay yourself a management fee, claim you sell dongles, you never sell an actual dongle to anyone, and pay yourself the money. As long as you pay taxes on the money, if you are smart, you will actually set up your management fees as vesting stock interests. So you pay capital gains, not income tax. Absolutely no one will give a flying duck. Why bother laundering it at all? Keep working your job, socking a ton of money away into legitimate retirement vehicles. 401k, Roth IRA, whatever. Meanwhile, use the cash to discreetly fund your life. Don't be extravagant, but little things are now paid in cash. Groceries, gas, dinners out, etc. Go to different grocery stores and gas stations. Don't be a regular, anywhere, on paper, and all official like. You'll be socking legitimate money away, while living a life maybe just slightly above your means. Like I said, be discreet. After 5-10 years, you'll likely have enough saved to retire, and you can continue to live off your investments. Unless you draw attention to yourself, it's unlikely that anyone will notice anything unusual. Diversifying my bonds through Wu-Tang Financial. Casino. Put dirty money in slot machine. Push cash out button. Clean money comes out. Deposit $1 into your bank account a day. 5 million days later you're good. Simple and practical. Open a restaurant and make it super nice. Then, report profits much higher than what I actually made as cash tickets. Start a cash-only business like a pizzeria, but you wouldn't be able to deposit anywhere near $5 million. So I would probably buy a safe and just use cash for everything I buy for the rest of my life. Buy $50 gold coins. You can, but them are 4-5 at a time. Keeping it under 10k as to not set off a flag or buy more at a coin show. It would take a few months but doable. You'd end up with about 3,500 $50 coins. So now you and someone you trust can travel outside the country with all that money totally legal. It's only 18k in US currency, even though the value of the gold is much more. From there you can go to one of many tax-free havens where you can deposit and invest your totally clean money. Being in CO, I'd store the cash. Apply for a license to either grow weed or sell it legally. It's a largely cash business, and nobody would refute an extra $100,000 a year. Invoice like a small business. Full letter-sized paper. Don't keep any physical copies until adjust the sell price electronically the day you make the sale. Then save and print that copy. Your copy won't match the customer's copy. But would someone buying weed at a store actually keep their receipt? Not like they could make returns. It most probably wouldn't even take a receipt with them. Deposit the extra into the business account and pay yourself an annual salary. 1. You'd actually make money. 2. It's mostly cash to begin with. Easy to inflate a bit. 3. Nobody else keeps a copy of your sales tickets. We're going to need to have a chat with you. I wouldn't. I'd just pay cash for everything. Casino. Put 2.5 mil on black. 2.5 mil on red. If it hits green. Whoops. 1. Become an 8-story creature from the Paleolithic era. 2. Ask 1,428,572 people for tree fitty. Job done. I have an old house. I'd just hide it in the floor or the wall or something and use it as cash a little at a time. Do what Hollywood does. Set up 2 companies. Have one company charge insane prices to the other company. The profit got eaten up in fees. 6 months later, you've got yourself a legit 4ish mil in the bank. If you have $5 in cash, there's absolutely no effing reason to put it in a bank account. The only thing else you don't want to do is to put it into an appraisable bit of property, like a Bentley or a house or diamond blings. But if you spend $500,000 a year on pizzas, nobody would ever know. Weed shop in Washington or Colorado. Run for any public office and anonymously donate to a PAC. Used car sales. There's plenty of private sellers that are only too happy to take cash. You can fill up a lot and anything you sell will be a legitimate transaction. If you sell cheap, you're sure to get the sales. Sure, you'll make a bit of a loss, but you always make a loss in laundering. Is this a serious question? Because if so, I'm not giving advice about actually laundering money, but instead giving a hypothetical way someone could go about laundering money. You pay a company which specializes in opening LLCs to open an LLC for you. They remain the officer of the LLC, but you take over full control of it. After it is opened and all the paperwork is filled, as little as $500 in some states, all you need to do is use that LLC to create another LLC, using the first LLC created as an officer of the second. Make sure it is in an unrelated field and registered at a different address. Become a contractor or consultant for the second LLC by hiring yourself. Pay yourself a healthy salary and bonuses. Audit and keep the money tied up in the LLC, and just use a company spending account. It's really up to you at that point. I've thought about this, i.e., if a sack of money fell out of an armored truck, here's what I'd do. First, I'd grab the sack and throw it in the boot trunk of my car and leave it there for a day or 2. I have no idea if there are GPS trackers in these bags. It'd be silly not to throw one in. So I'm going to assume there is one. So they'll be able to follow the money. I'd leave it in my car for a day or 2. So if the police show up, I can say I found the sack, but completely forgot about it, as I had to go to work, etc., etc. After a couple of days, I'd remove the sack. Next, is there a dye pack in the sack? I'd assume so. So I would get a few big, strong, plastic bags and put that around the money sack and slowly cut the corner of the sack and start removing the cash, bit by bit. This is so if the dye pack goes off, it'll stop the dye getting everywhere, and I'd hopefully have gotten a lot of the money out before it did go off. So now you have all this money. Now what? If it was me, I'd just keep it in a safety deposit box and withdraw $10,000 at a time to spend on my day-to-day expenses and let my income from work build up, and I'd use my legitimate income to buy things on the books, a house, etc. But that's not the question. It's how to get that money in the bank. Is the money in consecutive numbers? If not, easy. Just sell paintings and other arts and crafts, report the income and pay tax on it, and away you go. If it is in consecutive numbers, then it can be traced. So you'll need to launder it. I'm assuming the money is in $20 notes. I'd go to the corner store and buy a newspaper with a $20 note. Throw the paper away. Then go to the next store and buy another paper. Throw it away. Then the next store. Let's say the paper costs $2. That means it'll cost you 10% to launder the money. You can't keep going back to the same stores, because the government may be able to track this, so you'll need to change it up a bit. The important thing is to go where there are no cameras. You could go to one place with cameras, but if you show up on camera at 10 stores which received one of these notes, they'll find you and keep your fingerprints off the notes. That's my general idea. Although if it was me, the safest thing is to not bank the money. That's how you'll be found. I posted this before on an AskReddit but seemed appropriate to repost again here. This was toward the end of the year 2000. I was the CEO of a company I had founded in the software industry. At this time I had never raised capital before. I had received lots of scam emails before and they were very easy to spot and ignore. But around this time I received an email from a representative of a supposed Arab prince wanting to invest in our company. I ignored it. The guy was persistent and even called my office from London. It just didn't smell right, but I was pretty naive. I listened to the man's pitch. He represented an Arab prince that was looking to invest in tech companies, minority investments, no active involvement, yada, yada. It all sounded too good to be true. So after our call I didn't do anything. The guy persisted. He gave me the name of the prince. I don't recall it exactly, but it had bin Aziz in it. I honestly figured it was one of my buddies pulling a prank on me. Finally, it got the best of me. Luckily one of my wife's brothers works for the company, if you know what I mean. I called him and asked him if he could look into the guy for me and see if it was legit. I sent him the email trails, phone number, names, etc. A day or two later he called me back and said that, yep, this guy was real. He just cautioned me to be careful but said it was at least not a scam. Now I was really kind of freaked out. I talked with the guy further and we agreed that this prince would invest $3 million into my company for a minority stake. Paperwork was drafted up. I was using a very prominent law firm. Everything seemed to be on the up and up. When the time came to fund, he told me that the prince was going to be in London and if I was willing to fly over it would be a great gesture and I could meet him and sign the papers live it. I had never really been out of the country, Canada and Mexico accepted. I went to my father-in-law who spent many years in Saudi and was fluent with their language and customs. He gave me lots of tips on do's and don'ts. So the time comes and I fly to London. The guy comes to meet me at my hotel to pick me up. He is carrying a large aluminum suitcase like you see in the movies. He informs me that the prince's jet has had an issue and he is not going to be able to meet with me. He asks if I have a private place we can go to execute the agreement. Now this is freaky at this point and just so out of what my life had ever been to this point. I tell him that we can go up to my suite and we do. Once there, he produces multiple copies of the agreement to be signed. As I am starting to review the agreements he opens the suitcase and it is filled with stacks of $100 bills. I almost freaked out. I said, what the hell is that? He said this is the prince's $3 million investment. I also have an additional suitcase down in my car that the prince asked me to give to you after we have closed the deal that contains another $3 million that is personally for you in hopes that you will watch over the prince's investment closely. Of course my first response was, are you crazy? I can't take cash. I can't carry money like that back to the US. He argued with me a bit, in a very nice, low tone, but I just had to say no way and I was really scared by now that something really bad was going to happen. After some tense discussion with me making it clear that I would not take cash, he left with the suitcase a bit angry. I returned to the US mostly in shock, I guess. When I got back I called my brother-in-law to tell him what happened. He said he wanted to check with some colleagues and call me back. When he did he said I could have very legally taken that cash and declared it, and although there would have been questions I would have probably been fine. He also said I could have opened an account in London, although I don't see how you do that with that much cash and not raise an eyebrow or two. But then he said, I'm glad you didn't, because what would have happened next is that a few months down the road, you would have heard from the guy again and he would inform you that the prince wanted to invest more, and it would have kept coming until one day a federal marshal would have shown up on your door. Turns out this is one of the ways, back then, can't speak for now, illicit oil money was getting laundered. The Arabs sell oil outside of OPEC and all cash deals, mostly with China, and then try to buy stakes in small legitimate businesses with rubes like me that will fall for it. That's what the extra $3 million was for, to make me say hell yeah. So like I said, not exactly a scam but something strange and with scam-like feel to it. Good news is we didn't get taken and eventually sold the company in 2001. TL. Dr. A real Saudi prince tried to invest $3 million in cash in my company if I would only carry it back to the US for him. Edit. So people will stop beating me up about the lack of paragraph breaks. :